with that, we come to a panel on one of the hottest topics in the moment right now, with it's like healthcare and technology. I mean, we see that, I mean, Andreas like partially has an intersection with what they're doing. Other companies are doing a lot. And our moderator for the panel is somebody who's been like a long-time expert in that. So he has led from 1993 to 2005, has been a managing partner at Delphi Ventures, has raised over 1.1 billion to invest in over 170 companies with medical devices, biotech, healthcare service businesses. In 2006, he formed New Vista Partners to invest in Romanian real estate that capitalizes on the market for wellness communities. And also in 2015, he founded PressOne, one of Romania's most respected independent media and news organizations. So please welcome Don Lothrop on stage, who will introduce his panel. So please give him a warm round of applause and thank him for coming to Texavania. Please, Don. And a big moment of suspense. And there's Don. Thank you.
Are we ready? Oh, okay.
Stage is all yours.
Okay. Okay, well, so thank you. My name is Don Lothrop. I didn't hear my introduction, but
I did, I swear. I said only good things about you.
Okay, good.
I said you spend like 1.1 billion that gets everybody's attention in your venture fund, and I said that in your new fund you're spending more money, so I think everybody you have everybody's full attention now as money was involved.
Okay. So I'm going to just give my 2 minutes on what I'm doing here in Romania. I have a healthcare deal. What I learned after forming 150 companies in Silicon Valley is that 80 to 90% of our health is a function of the quality of the air inside our homes, the amount of time we spent getting exercise, the food that we eat, our level of anxiety, and our level of stress. That's what drives hypertension, diabetes, depression. And so this place, Transylvania, in the outskirts of Cluj, has all the elements to make this one of the healthiest places in Europe to live. So I've got a project, Kalina Noa, 18 kilometers north of town on 153 hectares, where we're trying to create the healthiest place in Europe to live and the perfect place to raise your child. It's fun for me to talk about this. I can tell you that in the United States, there's two industries that technology has not disrupted. The biggest one of all is healthcare. The second one is secondary and education. And I'm absolutely confident that in the United States that the disruption is not going to come from health insurance companies, not going to come from hospitals, and it's not going to come from doctors' groups. It's going to come from the outside, because all of those groups have vested financial interest in the system the way it is. So what I'm going to do is let each one of the four men here talk a little bit about how their organizations are innovating, bring innovative technology to healthcare, and then come back and ask them a couple questions about disruption. So you want to go first?
Thank you. So my name is Calin Vaduva. I'm the CEO of Fortech. Fortech is actually an offshore, nearshore business, about 700 people, 750 overall, and we are a software engineer house. The idea was not as much to change Fortech in the direction of medical or healthcare. So Fortech is still a company in nearshore, and that's the plan. But we started several years ago a way of building innovation, and that was through our partners. So we set up 6 years ago a model that we do investment in startups. But in Romania, we realized that's a little bit difficult. Why? Because when you build a software technology platform, you need at least 3 elements. One is software developers, which we had and which we have, which is very good. But the second and the third are very important. A person or a team that understand the business, understand the concept, and not less important is the sales. So in Romania, we miss the concept, we miss the sales. So that's why we choose building a kind of partnership with West European and US ventures. So right now we have 7 ventures in US in different areas, mainly in finance and healthcare. And in healthcare, we start in different areas, especially in Chicago and Boston. And we have now at least 2 main ventures in medical environment. The innovation comes from them, but we build the products, we build the technology that can stay behind. So we integrate new technology like AI in some of their business. And this is the way that we can with innovation. But still, the product it's sold in US, it's sold in outside of Romania, where we see a bigger market and bigger needs, at least for the moment. So this is our main interest in healthcare. So talking about Fortech, we are investing a lot in making the platform for development. So there are a lot of standards to be considered in healthcare that are important for a development team. So that's our interest. Thanks.
Thank you. That's Fortech. Dinesh.
Hi, my name is, oops, sorry. I'm right in front of the speaker, so I'll try to stay back here. I'm Dinesh Kandanchatha. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Macadamian Technologies. We are a product consultancy as well. We focus in healthcare. Healthcare is our business. What we say to our clients and to our employees that health defines us. Health is a huge part of our business. We came to Cluj in 12 years ago, so we kind of feel almost like natives now after so many years here. Our team is 30-ish people here and growing, and we are around 200 people globally. We have very much invested in the disruptors of healthcare. That's a big part of our business. Our consultancy is tied to people creating new products or new products that are either diagnostic, treatment, or around connected health. So bringing devices that are in the hospital to connect them using the internet, or to allow patients to manage their care at home. And that's one of the big areas around this panel I think we should talk about is educating patients so that care for patients is structured with them in the driver's seat as opposed to the back seat. Not 100% familiar with how healthcare is handled here in Romania, but in many, many parts of the world, the patient is lucky to be in the car at all when it comes to driving their healthcare. They are at the mercy of insurance companies, they're at the mercy of doctors. They're often uneducated and unable to advocate for themselves. And technology, as Don said, is a great equalizer. And there's an opportunity to provide both patients and their primary caregivers a very empowering tool using media like voice, mobile applications, digital therapeutics. And the onus is on us as technologists to try to create those bridges so that we can put the patient back in the driver's seat, back in control of their health. So that's what we do at Macadamian. We try to work with innovators who are patient-centric, and we've been doing that for 22 years, and it's very exciting.
Thanks. Adrian.
Thank you. I'm Adrian Peake. I'm the Managing Director of Medicover in Romania. We're very proud to be helping sponsoring Techsylvania at the same time. I'll start with the great news. In terms of science in healthcare is moving at an incredible pace. And the good news for everybody in this room is that we will all live longer, healthier. Some of us, not me, but some of you will live to be 120, 130 years of age, which is incredible. The downside is it might mean you have to be married for 100 years, but that's up to you. But at the same time, there's a world shortage of doctors. So guess what? There's a shortage of doctors in Romania. And that will continue. That will continue because there's 7.8 billion people on the planet, and we will consume so much healthcare, so we can't keep up. So we need to do things differently. We can't continue to deliver healthcare in the traditional ways. We have to have innovation. And I'll touch on some of the things that guys said later on in the Q&A. We, Medicover, can do and play a small part. Will we be disruptive? We need the help of all the minds in this room to help the disruption. We invest more time, money in technology than we do in MRIs and CT scans, because we see that it has to be the future. I mean, if I take it on a personal level, I mean, you talk about lifestyle. I am diabetic, so now with my Medicover app, I can make an appointment to see my doctor tomorrow morning in a few seconds. I'll get my blood results by 5 o'clock, and there'll be something on there. It might be my hemoglobin levels are higher or my cholesterol levels are higher. I can ask him a question and say, is this okay? It helps bring the patient and the doctor closer together. And we have to do that. We have some unique challenges in Romania. Is that those of you that are visiting Cluj for the first time, Cluj isn't Romania. Cluj is an amazing, beautiful place with lots of young, clever people. But there's 15 million other people that live in more rural areas, and delivering healthcare to them is a challenge. They're old and frail. So again, we have to be disruptive. We have to bring the technology. As applause. One of the things, if you go out into our booth, we can announce today via the press that we're launching Medicover Express, which is a healthcare assessment, which also links into patient flow management, which also helps. But we come to these events trying to find the solution. There's a group in the room. There's a group from Visionary who we found through Innovation Labs, which is a pre-accelerator forum, because they've got some great ideas about how to use technology in healthcare, and we want to be able to sponsor them to move it forward. So I think that the message for me is the real true disruption will come externally. So I absolutely agree with you, Don. We will play our part, but I think for us, large healthcare providers partnering with technology companies has to be the solution, because we have to do things differently.
Thanks. Alex.
Thank you, Don. So while waiting to be disrupted, I will tell you a little bit about how Philips looks at this big challenge. So first of all, Philips is a 127-year company, and the first decision towards this was to transform, I'm pretty sure you don't know, to transform this company in a health tech company. So today, Philips is 100% health technology company. No more bulbs, no more TV sets, no more nothing. So this was the first step towards this. So the vision is that we want to touch 3 billion people's life by 2030. And you can imagine that this is not going to be done by treating people, putting surgeries, or putting catheters. So it's much bigger, much wider. And you mentioned earlier about the way we live, the way we eat, the way we recover, and the way we integrate this into society. So we come with this concept which is called health continuum, because this is all about, right? So it starts with what you eat. So we have this part of personal health, showing people how to eat, how to exercise in order to be healthier. Then it's about prevention, the way you brush your teeth or the air that you're breathing in your home. So we are putting devices in their home in order to help them to have a healthier air to breathe. Then sometimes bad things happen. Then you need to speed up the process, because the goal of this is to put people back into the continuum, right? Then you need first-time right diagnostic. So you need technology, and technology is supported by artificial intelligence to make it first-time right, in order to speed up the process. And if there is the case, to have a minimum invasive therapy or intervention, one day in a hospital maximum, as we discussed earlier, then recovery should be done home. Then again, you need connectivity, telemedicine, artificial intelligence in order to maintain the connection with the patient, in order to be able to speed up the recovery because it's proven that being home, you can recover faster than in a hospital, and the risk of getting infections, it's much smaller. And then to start again the loop. So this is how we want to tackle this challenge. It's a big challenge, it's a huge challenge. Yeah, and I think we agreed earlier in a roundtable that what we have to solve is this dilemma, putting together the interest of the stakeholders at the same level. Because today, this is my belief, the interest of the stakeholders are not the same. The administrators of the company have an interest, the doctor have an interest, the patient have a different interest. So until we cannot solve this, we cannot move it faster.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So in the United States, the pharmaceutical industry's job is to sell more chemicals. And they come up with new chemicals that have only marginal improvements over the old ones and charge 10 times as much for them. So they're not going to solve the healthcare issue in our country. The doctors in the hospitals are paid by the number of visits they have. And so they don't want visits that are more than, a doctor more than 10 minutes because they're trying to get 30 visits a day. The hospitals, people want you in the hospital. They want to discharge you quickly. They want to get you back in. It's not the individual people, but those are the financial incentives by the stakeholders who own them. And then health insurance companies in America don't want to pay the first $7,000 of payments. They don't want to tell you what contracted rates they've negotiated with providers. So that in America, the movement now is to patient-centered care. And for people outside the healthcare industry, informing patients how they can manage their own care, how their families can manage their care, and maybe doing it in a really close relationship with a primary care doctor. So I really would hope, if I make any contribution to this event, that maybe some of the large outsourcing companies, like Fortech or Dinesh's, that they would put aside some money so some of the Romanians who are here can develop some apps that really make a practical difference here in Romania, such as how do we identify the doctors who are doing a really good job? How do we find knee replacement doctors that have a very low infection rate? How do we find ENT doctors, or maybe get them to come home so you can do a nasal polyp on your kid in a 20-minute outpatient procedure? We do have good doctors here in Romania, but it's going to take technology to identify them, for people to rank them, grade them, not with hate. I think there's a lot of opportunity for this patient-centered care, these kind of tools to be developed by the tech company here. So let me just start with Fortech. Are you taking what you're learning in Western Europe and the United States and applying it anyway to improving the healthcare for the people who work for you here in Romania or in Romania? Yeah, go ahead.
So, if it's about applying in Romania in this moment, I wouldn't say that we do that right now. But still, I think I have a comment with what you told before. I think healthcare in general, it's a really regulated industry. It's not so easy to come with something new and just to say, okay, yeah, let's pump it in the area, because the regulation in US are very tough. So if you talk of Federal Drug Administration regulation, all the process behind to standardize, so nobody is just coming with something new. So easily. So I would recommend, if we do something, either it's a kind of overall business, like you said, okay, just star or classify the best doctor, but if you go deep in the problems, then you have to be very careful about your structure and your organization, about the process you are jumping. It's not easy to just come with a new stuff. Here, I think we as Romania, we can do a lot. And I think from the point of view of technology, we have a lot of experience. From the point of view of experience, I think the fact that we miss the doctors in some areas could be an interesting approach to start innovate. Because I just give an example. We talk about someone that think about industry, about financial industry, about insurance, but they start thinking about applying in Africa. Why they do that? Because Africa has a lot of limitation about the pricing and the way they work. So I think, also from our side, could be very interesting to think about our problems and about our issues and see how we can innovate in this industry of healthcare. We may talk about different type of applications. We may talk about, let's say, remote support or, let's say, telemedicine. We can talk about application AI. We talk about process organization and different things. And definitely what I would like to underline, it's clear that when we talk about healthcare, we don't talk about only let's say, really regulated business. We talk also about food, we talk about sport application, we talk about a large area of domains. And think about the life expectation increasing, this area is definitely something like will grow up in the future. Okay.
And let me just say, I think there's a lot that can be done that has nothing to do with regulation. Like to get a pharmaceutical approved in the United States takes 2 small clinical trials and then a massive 5,000 person randomized double-blinded trial. Could be $600–700 million. Because the Food and Drug Administration is statistically trying to prove something. We're entitled to know what was proven in that trial. So if your kid is on Adderall, what was proved in the $600 million trial? What was the clinical endpoint of efficacy? I, as a dad, I want to know. The doctors who prescribe these drugs don't even know. So simply taking public information that the doctors don't know the answer to, or most dementia medicines in the United States, the endpoint is that your mom can live at home for 2 months longer. But they're simply taking the serotonin out of your stomach, they're putting it in your brain, and you have diarrhea and stomach aches. In the case of my mom, you don't go out to eat for 3 years. It would have been nice to know that all that this drug ever did was keep your mom at home 2 months longer before we put it on it. So taking a TripAdvisor, and this is something that a bunch of people here could do, let's simply rank the doctors. That's not a regulatory issue.
There are low-hanging fruit, I think. There's definitely, the points that Calin made are evident. There is, when you deal with any type of diagnostic or therapeutic device, if it's classified as a medical device, it's non-trivial to bring that out into the marketplace. But there are a whole bunch of other ways that you can make large improvements in an incremental manner. And when we work with disruptors, we try to focus on the unregulated part. The regulated part is what it is. You have to deal with it, and strong software developers, strong architecture will define the regulated area as tightly as possible so as to increase the likelihood of it coming out to market in a successful way in a meaningful time. But to the point you were making about how technology can help, technology, if the focus is empowering the patient. So rather than looking at, diagnostic tools or treatment tools that would be used by providers, by doctors, by hospitals, by other healthcare professionals, instead looking at tools that allow a patient to be educated about their condition, using public data, and frankly, the insurance companies have tons and tons and tons of data. Obviously, it has to be depersonalized, and appropriate safeguards have to be in place. But they have lots and lots of data about how patients can take control of their conditions, and that's in the insurance company's benefit because it means lower costs. It's in the patient's benefit because the most frustrating thing about being sick is the fact that you have no control. So when you lose control of your life, it's really, really hard. And technology has an opportunity through education to return control to the patient and reduce cost out of the system, and then create a meritocracy, which is what you're talking about when it relates to the provision of care. Care provided by the best, and frankly, that kind of transparency is what will make us all healthier in the long run.
I think the key word that you both mentioned there is education. We do suffer, and I'm a resident of Romania, so I can say we do suffer from a lack of education. So genuine tools around self-assessment and symptom trackers are critical, and linking them into pathways that get me to see the right doctor. It utilizes the limited resource, which is which are the doctors. They are the limited resource, and it improves the outcomes for the patients. We talked about TripAdvisor, and I'm a big fan. I want to know what middle-aged men that have had a hip replacement felt about Dr. A. And I'll take a view. If you look at most of the kind of websites that try and link patients and doctors, there's photographs. So what do? You pick the most handsome, the most beautiful. It's no good. You need to have, you need a clear direction as to which way to go. But education has to be, and is the solution. So we can talk about regulation until the cows come home. We need to focus on what we can do and not what we can't.
Yeah, so agree. If we talk about education, then we talk about information, right? We talk about data. And you mentioned earlier that healthcare was the lazy kid in all the industries to adopt digital technologies. Nevertheless, in the last 10 years, they started to work on that. And we found out that we're sitting on a huge amount of data, an ocean of data, right? To give you an example, we found out that in Philips we store 23 petabytes of data. I asked my colleagues what that means, and they say, just to have a comparison, the entire Facebook library is 2 petabytes. So this is the scale. And Philips is is not the largest company in the world, and there are hundreds of companies storing data. So we're sitting on an ocean of data, but then the data is not systematized, is not structured. Then we don't know how to work with this data. So I told you earlier, we have an ocean of data stored in barrels. So we have to open all the barrels in order to find out what is what. Then this is making life more difficult for professionals because they cannot connect data, they cannot put together. We expect them that they will have the entire picture now today because we sit on data. No, it's extremely difficult because the data don't talk. So we have to open the data for professionals, but even more, we have to open the data for consumers, for patients, because this is the only way we can really change this, to empower consumers. And I give you earlier my view on that. The answer is 40 years old mom, because 80% of the spendings in the world are linked to 40-year-old mom, because they're taking care of their kids, their health, their parents' health, and their husband, finally, their husband's health. So everything is there. If we want to influence this world and to push it further, we have to talk to this lady, and this lady will help us to change the world.
Okay. Thanks. So we have 9 minutes and 31 seconds. For the group out here, in the city that I live in the United States, which is now Cincinnati, Ohio, when businesses there are looking for software talent, they're not looking to offshore it at a lower cost. They simply don't have it. They don't have the capability that exists here in blockchain, in AI, in things that I don't even know because I'm not a tech guy. And so when I talked with Calin at Fortech on the phone getting ready for this, I asked him, in how many cases do you own equity in the companies that you're working for? Because in America, your CTO and your organization would probably own 25% of the stock option pool. And so in order to do that, to make sure you don't get ripped off if you do it, you need to understand what preemptive rights are. You need to understand the difference between full ratchet and weighted average anti-dilution protection. And so I think there's a couple of events that are here, but I would encourage you to have the confidence that if you're in the outsourcing business, to ask for equity for the organization. If you're a leader, I'd ask for you to share it. I would ask you to get educated yourself on how it works so you don't get taken advantage of. But this isn't an outsourcing community that I live with here in Cluj. This is an immensely, immensely talented community. And things happen here that you can't do in Detroit, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. I mean, we get a brain drain in the Midwest to the coast. And so you're mission critical, and I would get paid well, I wouldn't be cheap, and I would ask for equity. So the last thing, now we're down to 7 minutes. One of the reasons that healthcare has lagged in being disrupted is because of patient privacy. And it's okay if at Target or Home Depot they steal your credit card information, but you don't want people to know you've got a sexual disease and you're on depression medicine and da-da-da-da. How does the blockchain fit into healthcare as a patient privacy tool? Because I assume on the blockchain you're anonymous, but you're verified. Is that something that you guys see coming down the pike in your businesses? Anybody?
So I think privacy, it's really critical in healthcare. So I just give an example. I know of one of our client partners that closed down a subsidiary in Ukraine just because they have a virus spread from there. The privacy in healthcare could be critical, could close down a hospital, could close down because the penalties are huge. So in this context, I think the cryptography and privacy can be very beneficial, but I haven't seen up to now the blockchain technologies used in healthcare. I saw it more in finance, I saw it everywhere in other areas, but not as much in healthcare, at least up to now from my side.
It's the same. The regulation does not support innovation of that type right now in healthcare. Even if there are architectures where we think it could potentially allow for broader sharing of data in a depersonalized way, so while maintaining privacy, stakeholders inside software development or medical device companies are unsure of the application. So for our case, we're a product consultancy. People come to us to build products. They're not ready to make the leap, to your point at the outset of not taking advantage of some of the very large potential trends. Another large trend is around artificial intelligence. It's a great buzzword. But what we found is when it comes down to actual practical application of using algorithms to help short circuit things like patient wait times, it's still, it isn't being applied. We're still very much in the state of data visualization. We're not anywhere close to seeing these great trends that we're seeing in financial sector and other sectors, these core technologies that are transformative. Our vision, having been at it now for 2 decades, is it takes around 10 to 15 years for healthcare to do what everybody else has been doing. So we're expecting blockchain the regulatory landscape to catch up probably somewhere in the 2020s, and then actual applications near the end of that period. So we're still, sadly, a long ways away.
So fortunately for me, my colleagues have answered the question, which enables me to kind of make a plea, really. I mean, we are, in Medicover, we are healthcare providers. We're not a technology company. We are great at delivering healthcare every single day of the year, 365 days a year. But we want to do things differently. So we talked about the disruption. We want to partner with the great minds that we have in Romania. As Don said, we're incredibly lucky. The talent we have in Romania is incredible. So, what I would ask, my team have a booth somewhere up there to the left. Come and talk to us, because the genuine innovation, the things we do are great, and they're incremental, but really changing the paradigm is kind of going to be a marriage between us as providers and you as technology companies, and I think it could be a great marriage. Might even be the 100-year marriage I referred to earlier on.
Yeah, so I've been a couple of weeks ago in Bucharest in a conference, and there was an European Union official in charge with data protection, Portuguese, and the guy said, we have the toughest law on data protection that we can have. We cannot make tougher than that. Yeah. We overworked it. Then I will come to my dilemma, because it is a dilemma. In order to speed up the innovation, you need to exchange data fast, yeah? And all this regulation, apparently they are blocking the speed, at least. Yeah. So we need to exchange data fast. We need to use data and computers in order to do trial instead of putting people on drugs, right? We need the data. But on the other hand, my dilemma is the following. I just said, and I truly believe that the most important stakeholder and the most neglected is the patient.
Right.
And in order to change this world, we have to involve the patient to change this system. Yeah. And in order to involve him, we need to give him confidence. Then this is my dilemma, confidence versus speed, because somehow I don't have the answer, but I think data protection is important, but then we have to find a way how to use faster data, protecting it. So I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. Well, thank you to the four of you. Again, since I'm the moderator, I'll abuse the privilege. And I just want to say that, as at the beginning, this is my 140th trip to Romania. I grew up in Germany in the 1970s, and 2 people got killed in my neighborhood by the Bader-Meinhof gang. I was a 14-year-old. And it's because these people were Nazis running big banks. And this isn't a political thing, because I'm not political. Then I did business in South Korea in the 1980s. And at the Hyatt in Seoul, there wasn't a single South Korean who could afford to stay there. It was Japanese and Americans. And so that I learned through those 2 experiences is that real change. And we were talking about patient-centered care. Now I'm transitioning to people-centered government. It happens in the 4th decade. It takes at least 30 years. And so I have so many Romanian friends, and it's just discouraging. It's discouraging. But I think we're moving towards people-centered government even faster than we'll get to patient-centered care. But it's a privilege to be in Romania, and thank you for letting me be here. That's it. Oops.
On.